Hello everyone, welcome back to another Friday and another casual champion review. Today, we're going over the spider woman. Not the good one though, not the one from the good movie, which that movie's gonna be definitely delayed. Kinda sucks. I was really looking forward to Beyond the Spider-Verse, but it all is well if it means the animators and writers actually get paid. Like, I'm pretty sure that movie wasn't even halfway done. And they say, oh yeah, it's gonna be out in March. Like, no way, man. Come on. You know what's cool though? Fan art section. Look at all these Spider-Men. I probably should have expected that, though. I was a little uneasy about what you fellas might do for this week, and that goes double for Evelyn. That one, I am both anticipating and terrified of what you fellas are going to create. And we talk about Evelyn quite a bit in this video, so thank you, fellas, though, for the art. It's always wonderful. Amazing. Also, fellas, the audio's a bit messed up in this video. My stupid idiot face forgot to unmute desktop audio, so I went into the replay tool to grab the audio from there, try and match it up the best I could. But if you see some sound effects missing that normally you see, like buying things in the shop, that's why. My bad, sorry. I don't really know what she does. I think I've played Elise like maybe once or twice in my entire life, so this is going to be a bit of a learning experience. I know that I have the spider form, but I think I'm supposed to start with W? I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go along. Alright, so Elise. Well, I'm going to mention the character later on, but let's get the base lore out of the way first, alright? Elise is raised in the Kythera family in Noxus. There's a lot of, Noxus and Demacia both have these houses, like Garen and Lux, or House Crown Guard, or whatever. Anyway, part of House Kythera and wished to wed a man named... Shit, let me look at my notes. Berholt. I had to write that down because it's a weird name to remember. He was the heir to House Savan, which was a very wealthy and powerful house in Noxus. So to grant her own house more power and influence, she thought it best to betroth Berholt. God damn it, that's gonna be so hard to remember. So by wedding him, it would strengthen her own house at the expense of theirs, and that was fine because his Elise is kind of a girl boss, and the plan worked. She was able to marry him, convince him to marry her, with a bit of outside influence as well. She didn't know that yet, but the Black Rose was kind of behind the scenes influencing things, helping her get things because they knew that she might be a valuable asset in the future. And now married, like I said, she's a bit of a girl boss. She took charge completely while Berholt, Savan's the name of the house. Berholt remained the figurehead of the house. She was the one calling all the shots. She was the one in charge, making all the decisions. And this caused Berholt, got it right, to grow resentful of her. So one night while they were having a meal together, he reveals that he poisoned her wine. She's gonna fall deathly ill from it, and he will take control of the clan, or of the house, once more. I say clan, I've been watching Mortal Kombat stuff. And Elise, ever the trickster and deceiver, played the resentful, oh no, please, husband, I didn't mean it, I didn't mean to do it, I'll do whatever you want, do whatever you say, and tricked him long enough to pick up a knife and stab him to death. She still took some effects from the poison. She was bedridden for a couple weeks, but during that time was approached by the Pale Lady, who you fellas might know is pretty obviously, it's LeBlanc, and offers to indoctrinate her into the secret society, the Black Rose, to give her more power and influence over Noxus. And Elise really likes that, and things are going well for several years. She's part of the Black Rose Society, but eventually the Pale Lady, LeBlanc, comes up to her with a task to retrieve the skull of Sun Uzal, or Sun Uzal. It's Mordekaiser. That's Mordekaiser's actual name, and they believe this skull is of great power, and last they thought resided on the Shadow Isles. Okay, repel. Oh, wait. Clearly, this game's going to go fantastically. So she's tasked to sail to the Shadow Isles and brings along a begrudging, not-so-competent captain, but one that will make great use later. And on the Shadow Isles, she discovers, to her surprise, not what she thought, not the skull of Sun Uzal, but the spider god Vilemaw, which most League Zoomers will not even know what that means. Vilemaw was like the Baron of Twisted Tree Line when that was still a map, and he actually danced. He was really cool. I liked Vilemaw. That whole map was revamped around Elise's release. I think it was like a duo release that Shadow Isles got its big lore update. Vilema was introduced, and Elise was added to the game all at the same time. So she approaches Vilema, and he bites her, transforming her with his venom and turning her into this half-human, half-spider creature with spider arms sticking out of her and all that jazz. And as she came to her senses, she realized she could kind of telepathically not much talk to Vilema, but they had an understanding with each other. She could feel his emotions and knew what he wanted. And she knew what to do. She gathered herself and sailed back to Noxus, along the way transforming back into her human self, and this would be important because she's now able to transform not only into this half spider form, but the full spider form. And while she didn't retrieve the skull like LeBlanc had hoped for, LeBlanc gained a different kind of valuable asset. What the hell? LeBlanc had retrieved instead someone who could traverse the Shadow Isles safely and return every time without fear of them dying there or getting turned into ghouls. So that would be Elise's primary directive whenever they needed her to go to the Shadow Isles, or if Vilema needs her to be there, she can go there, sail, bring sacrifices, and the Black Rose is perfectly fine to give her sacrifices because she is an invaluable asset in Noxus now, using her seductive charms to prey on lowly and powerless men to get what she wants and further the goals of the Black Rose and her own house. And that's kind of where her lore stops. She hasn't really done much outside of that. I think she had a couple short stories here and there, but overall, it's kind of a character that isn't doing very much. I probably should have reread all her short stories before recording this video, but I'm on a bit of a time crunch right now. I'm back at university now, so I got homework to do, other videos to plan, just all around busy, but hopefully that won't be too much, because if I remember correctly, most of her stories are just kind of describing what she does, finding a lowly person, bringing them to the Shadow Isles to be a sacrifice for Vilema. But that's where I want to bring up a bit of similarities. Well, her end goal is a bit different. I find it really uncanny the similarities that her story has to Cassiopeia. And I know Cassiopeia has been kind of a subject that appears a lot on this channel recently. I have no idea why, personally. So let's compare the two side by side. Both of them are high-ranking Noxian elites. Both of them were inducted into the Black Rose at a fairly young age. Both of them were sent by the Black Rose to travel to a distant land to discover some kind of artifact or source of magical power. Both were bitten by a powerful being of that land. For Elise, it was Vilema. For Cassiopeia, it was a statue, probably designed after Naganeka, a Darkin, or corrupted Ascended, I guess. And both were turned into a monster girl, granting them powers of the deity that bit them. It's kind of weird how similar they are when you boil it down like that. Obviously, they have their differences. Cassiopeia's story paints her more as a tragic figure, a person that doesn't know what to do with what they become. She thinks herself a monster, is unsure how to progress forward in life, whereas Elise is kind of reveling in her ability to use her spider powers, though their spider powers are more a gotcha, you know. She reveals that she's half spider in the end. She doesn't really use that. When she's in Noxus, she's in full human disguise mode, so this will tie into eventually what I'm going to talk about more with Cassiopeia down the road, not in this video. But Elise is kind of weird in that aspect, where this form that you see right now with her spider and her half-human form, it's really just for show, I find anyway. And kind of weird that she has the half-spider form to begin with. It's described in the story anyway that she turns back into a full human. So why does she have this weird halfway point? Like, what does that provide for her? I don't really know. Regardless, she is by all definition, a literal Black Widow, not just in the spider form. Not just because her spider is a literal Black Widow, but also because, I mean, that's the archetype, isn't it? I mean, even the spider, like, you see it has the markings of a traditional Black Widow, but it's kind of clever in the way, because the Black Widow trope is, I had the definition here, let me grab it. A Black Widow trope is a cross between a con artist and a serial killer, a woman who seduces, marries, then murders men for their money. That's exactly what she does. So it's taking the whole idea of a Black Widow very literally. So I guess that probably makes sense in that regards, why she has this weird half-human form, but you could have given her clothes or her hairstyle some spider-esque Black Widow physiology. You didn't have to make her this weird hybrid monster girl thing, I think, but I guess it works for a player to be able to understand why she could transform into a full spider. I imagine kind of like Nidalee is, current Nidalee anyway, not Legends of Runeterra Nidalee, that if you just have a normal human that just turns into a cougar like that, it's gonna be weird. So that being said, Elise is one of the few champions in League that is, for lack of a better term, is horny for a reason, and I'm not the best when it comes to that kind of stuff, obviously. I'm usually not a fan of when Riot randomly decides to over-sexualize characters or add sexualization traits to them when it's clearly not necessary, like Mundo, for example, to give him that impeccable jawline, or I'm still I know Viego was a neat twist on what we were all expecting, but I still think it's weird to make him shirtless, or someone like Kaisa, which we've all talked about Kaisa 1,000 times of why it's needless over-sexualization. But Elise actually makes sense. Her whole character is she's supposed to be seducing people to get what she wants, so of course she'd be needlessly over-sexualized, and in fact it's kind of weird how little they play into that. Wow, okay. And again, that's why I say it's weird that we're going to be talking about Evelyn next week, that they're so close together, because both of them do very similar things. They both are over-sexualized because, in different ways, I guess, they're kind of like a succubus. They try and seduce people to get what they want. Evelyn just does it a lot better, I think. Oh, can't get over that wall. Usually the design segments are a bit longer than this, but I don't really know what else to say because she is pretty cut and dry. Like I said, a literal Black Widow. Seems kind of obvious, but kind of clever in the same time. I'm sure this trope has been done before, as the Black Widow trope has been done. Making a literal Black Widow, I'm sure, has been done as well. I guess it's a good point to talk about her gameplay, because as someone who has played Elise like maybe once or twice, this is very confusing. And in fact, I never see anyone play Elise ever. I need to check the charts, but I'm pretty sure she is one of the least popular junglers in the game most of the time, and I find most often she's hard locked to high elo or professional play. Not even professional, but just mostly she's like a high elo character, which I guess she does have a lot of button combinations. She's kind of similar to Nidalee in that way. Man, Elise really is just like 3 different champions done kind of worse in a way. Like, she's Cassiopeia a lot with narrative structure. She's Evelyn a lot with the way that she operates as a character and her personality. And she's a lot like Nidalee gameplay-wise, where she's a shape-shifting AP burst mage jungler. To that extent, what do I think of her gameplay so far? Well, coming from the experience of someone who's never played Elise really before, ever, it could be worse. I've had worse experiences with new champions. To be honest, as I'm playing Elise right now, I think Briar comes out 2 days? 1 to 2 days as I'm recording this, and I just want to play more Briar, man. That character, gameplay-wise, is way more up my alley than this is. Though I do like the spider form, but obviously I like the spider form. I like monster stuff. I will say thematically as her gameplay, like the fact that she actually can turn to the full spider. I like the idea that she cocoons you before going into the spider. The idea that she has walked up to you as this facade of this human form only to trap you, and then she unveils her true spider form and kills you with that. That's where most of her damage lies. Thematically, that's really cool. Sorry, LeBlanc. Lore moment. Moving on from gameplay, how about skins? Well, this is another instance of a lot of champions who have very specific things about their visual design that it makes it very hard to make different skins. Because no matter what you do with Elise, some way or another you have to make her a spider because she has the spider form. And I don't think any skin has tried to branch out differently with that. Even Withered Rose was still just a spider. Super Galaxy was a spider mech. You kind of have to. Like, how else can you change that anatomy to be something different? Some champions have anatomy, or the way they look, they can change them enough. I mean, like Pugmaw, they turned him into some dog freak. I'll never forgive Riot for doing that. Or Cho'Gath, they turned him into some eldritch, bloodborne monster thing. But with a very specific animal like a spider, it's kind of hard to break away from that. And I think that's why most of Elise's skins never really gelled with me. She's weirdly like one of those characters that I'd actually struggle to pick a favorite for. Most of them are just completely forgettable, though I think she's one of the few characters that I actually like bewitching on. That kind of sums it up for me, actually, as a whole. I, half the time, forget that Elise is even a character. The most amount that I've seen from her, and weirdly enough, it kind of translates to, translates to Legends of Runeterra. In Legends of Runeterra, she was just this random character, like Draven was back in the day, that she was just passable enough that if you were making a Shadow Isles deck, she was just the best flexible unit. You wouldn't even try to level her up. You just throw her in there because she was a 2/2/3 fearsome unit that spawned another spider. That's it. Just, she was a decent, normal unit. You didn't play her as a champion. That kind of exemplifies how I feel about her. She's kind of just there. There's plenty of other champions that do things that she does, but better. Evelyn is a better execution of the sexy seductress character type. Nidalee's a more interesting gameplay version of the transforming burst mage jungler. I struggle to remember what this character does half the time, or that she even exists. And yeah, this is going to feel like a really short casual champion review, but honestly, I'm fine with that. It's been a busy week. I don't have a lot to say about Elise because I'm just not very passionate about this character. I think I'll have more to say about Evelyn next week and the characters that follow suit afterwards. Oh, hey, they surrendered. Nice. I'm glad I don't have to play Elise anymore. Guys, fellas, I'll see you next week for Evelyn. A little bit scared to see what the fan art section is going to look like for that, but until next time, I'll see you in that video, all right?